science can help to make an environment where human being can prevail. The problem, I think, goes for other things, which is that with all these electronics coming into the picture, technology, the problem is that people is not thinking too much. It's speaking a lot, but not thinking too much. And the problem is that the concepts of science are getting farther apart from the real life. I mean, the common life of a lot of people. For instance, Peru has 32 million people living there, and I think there are 40 million of cell phones, or more. I mean, people have 2-3 cell phones because it's on fashion, this one, but they don't read a book. So there is a problem of science getting apart. Also, in the other hand, you have the capital, the investment. And the investment is that science is doing things which are exotic but not practical. There is a divorce with the practical things. For instance, the CO2 problem of capturing the CO2 from the thermal plants. There is this Paris Agreement is going to end quite soon, in very few years. And people will not comply because they have not solved the CO2 problem. And the CO2 problem is not solved because scientists are not helping too much on that respect, because they say it's a practical thing, engineers will solve that. And in the other hand, the engineers are thinking, well, how, or the engineering company, what I can sell to the thermal plants in terms of machinery. So when we come with our ideas of making, for instance, a product, a commodity that can absorb the CO2 as a commodity made cheaply in the desert, using energy that comes, that will come, it's not renewable, it's perennial, because till the sun turns off, we will not live for that time. But what is delaying the problem solving of CO2 is that in one hand the scientists say that it's a matter of engineers, and in the other hand the engineers in the engineering companies, they say what we gotta do is to sell these guys who produce CO2 and expensive machinery. Right? And if with current processes of capturing CO2, the cost of electricity worldwide will double or triple, because the machinery is involved and not enough research has been done by the scientists in order to look for ways by which this CO2 can be captured. So, resuming, I think there is a big divorce. The thing that people is not thinking too much, not reading too much, they are passive towards the big problems of humanity. And on the other hand, you have this niche of scientists that are doing interesting things, yes, but they are not facing the problem. I mean, the ones who should do that don't have the scientific capacity to do processes by which this CO2 can be captured. So they say, okay, let's make a big machine. But that big machine will cost at the end that the cost per kilowatt hour will double or triple. And that is bad, because for instance, I was reading the information in the States, a kilowatt hour on average has a price of about 7 cents. With this carbon capture, it will go to 15, 16 cents, if not to 20 or 21 cents. So you are talking about a big burden. And Europe is worse, because Europe doesn't have the gas that the United States has. So for instance, the average common market, the European common market kilowatt price or cost is around 15 cents per kilowatt hour. And if they put the carbon capture thing, you are talking about 30 cents or 45 cents per kilowatt hour, which is enormous. The subject is so difficult compared with I mean, you have a lot of cell phones, all types of cell phones. They will talk to you, whatever. But they are not solving the basic thing that energy must be cleaner now. Of course, people is doing cells, solar cells, and windmills and all that. But at the end of the day, China, for instance, have made big plants of photovoltaic cells. But anyway, for instance, India and China, they project a growth in coal consumption of 6% per year, which means that because the population increases and all that, whatever you do for capturing the sun will never replace the fossil fuels because people needs to eat, needs to heat themselves. So really there is a very dramatic situation at the end.